Okay, I'm back to answer more of your questions. Let's jump right to the next one. From Granny TWD. Hi, Granny. How you doing? After posting the comment you addressed in Ask 64 regarding Jeffrey saying TD, I had the additional thought that not only was Hilarie's comment seemingly rehearsed and obvious, but it started with the word O, said rather emphatically and drawn out. We all know how significant the word O is in Alone. Makes me smile. Yeah, I agree. And actually, I want to say it was W.D. Way actually said the same thing. And yeah, very often I miss that. But I think that they use the phrase "oh" a lot. Like they have Emily say it, and they probably use it more than we pick up on. So yeah, definitely, I agree. And yeah, it seemed like there was another one that W.D. Way pulled out that I was like, oh, I didn't even catch that. Hey, look what I just did. I just said "oh." So yeah, it tends to be subtle. But yeah, if they were rehearsing what Hilarie was saying, then they very much could have put the O in there. I agree. So yeah, thanks for pointing that out. A silly observation here, but one problem with Beth returning is EK hasn't aged even a little bit after 10 years. The makeup artists are going to have to work overtime to make her look like she's in her late 20s, early 30s, praying for them. Yeah, I mean, I personally think she's aged a little bit. Like, if you just look side by side at her, like, season 2 versus now, you can tell she's a little older. But, I mean, to your point, I agree. She's always going to look like she's 12, so... But I'm sure they'll figure it out. And the other thing is they do go out of their way to make Norman look younger, too. Like, they dye his hair and everything. So, yeah, I mean, it's a good point. But the other thing is, though, that she's probably going to have her scars from Coda or, well, I guess I should say from season 5. She actually got them in Slabtown. And they could use that and really, I don't know, play it up and give her more scars. I mean, Daryl has more scars than when she last saw him. So I'm sure they'll figure it out. The makeup people, under Nicotero, they're some of the best in the world, so they'll figure it out. It'll be fun to see what they do with it. A recent Daryl Dixon season 2 promo includes the words "to find home is to find each other." Of course, many will think something obvious, but we know who home is. Find me, find me, find me. Your thoughts, please, and thank you. Yeah, definitely. It's funny, back in season 6, no. Season 5, when, at the end of season 5, when Daryl and Aaron are out recruiting right before they fall into the wolf trap, a lot of TDers noticed that the truck said "how the harvest gets home," and really thought that was a Beth reference. Now, I actually still think it is. It was just like a very, very early foreshadowing, because there was so many things that had to do with the wolves that felt like they had Beth symbolism around them. And even now, I mean, in Diverged, which was a foreshadow of Daryl and Carol going their separate ways and then coming back together, there is a part where Daryl is fixing his bike and hears wolves. Then in Daryl Dixon season 1, when he meets the girl at the school who was practically the French version of Beth, who was there helping all the kids, they would pretend to be wolves, and they would even howl like wolves. So wolves is a really potent symbol that has to do with Beth. And of course, there's Up the Wolves, the song from Still, and all of that. So anyway, my point is that home is very much a symbol that is associated with the wolves, but I feel like the wolves are the vehicle by which she will return home. In other words, she will return to Daryl. And we don't know exactly what that's going to look like, and I'm excited to find out. But yeah, I agree. Home is a very potent symbol in the show. And yeah, I mean, I know that a lot of people were frustrated when Daryl wrote "find me" to Leah, but the point is that Leah was a proxy for Beth, and obviously he was never going to be with Leah. I mean, one thing that we sort of observed is that, okay, so you could kind of think of it a couple of ways here. Leah did find him when he met her again. So, like, in season 11, when we came in contact with the Reapers again and Leah was with them, she saw him from a distance and walked up to him. So she kind of found him more than he found her. So you could see that as a little bit of a foreshadow, or not a foreshadow, as a payoff to him saying "find me," because she did actually find him rather than him finding her. But of course, it didn't happen when he wrote the note. It happened several years later. And we were kind of seeing that as a foreshadow of maybe Beth being the one to find Daryl, right? But anyway, there's just so many different examples of home that we could use. There's the home sweet home phrase, which Daryl says when they get stuck in the moonshine shack. And then the fact that he wants to make a home with her in Alone. And it's interesting because, again, it's just a way that they're all connected in kind of a circular way. It was right after he said that he wanted to settle down and stay at the funeral home that we get the first iteration of her saying, "What changed your mind?" And then we see Daryl changing his mind a lot of times. And it's always tied up with Beth's symbolism. He changed his mind and went back to Leah, even though she was already gone. I mean, it's just the way that these circular arcs come and go, but they're all foreshadows. They're all indicative of something that is to come, which I think is Beth. And we have Carl telling baby Judith, if you ever get lost and need to find your way home, use the North Star. The North Star is obviously a constellation. It's cosmology, so it's kind of linked to the Sirius dog star. I could go on and on. You could even say that she does, I believe, talk about home in the voiceover for her journal in Inmates. She says that something about, I'm probably going to screw it up, so paraphrasing, but they need to find a place to call home. And it's interesting that she's saying all of that. They're doing the voiceover of her journal when she's running away with Daryl. It's just all very, especially in hindsight, it's very obvious the way that they're using this. So I don't know if that's exactly what you wanted my thoughts on, but yeah, I completely agree, and I think we can deep dive into any of those. But yeah, of course, that's a really suspicious tagline for them to use. I mean, if you think about season 5, Daryl and Carol jumped in the car together to go and find Beth, and the idea was to bring her home. But by then, of course, the prison had gone down, and they didn't really have a home, an actual location, not until they got to Alexandria. So they were literally just going to bring her back to her family, which was her home. So that's, that's why we always say that home on the show isn't a place. It's just about being with the people you want to be with. So, yeah. Anyway, thanks for sending that in. That's a great observation. The title for season 2 makes me think they're going to have a different title for season 3. To be honest, I hate the title because it's really long and kind of redundant, but I doubt season 3 would be called The Book of Carol Part 2. Maybe she won't be in it that much come season 3. I hate to make any real predictions when it comes to Carol because I think it could go so many different ways. But I think The Book of Carol is just a way of showing that Carol is going to deal with her demons, right? I mean, I've said this before, but Consumed, even though we like to find all of the Beth symbolism and allusions in it, and there is a lot of Beth symbolism and allusion in it, from a narrative standpoint, it was about Carol. We had Carol flashbacks in that episode to what happened when Rick kicked her out of the prison. We saw her outside of Terminus in a way we didn't see in 501, so it was, we always say that each episode is from a certain person's point of view, like Coda was from Rick's point of view. Consumed was from Carol's point of view, and I think a lot of this season will be from Carol's point of view. It's going to be very Carol heavy, and it's because she's trying to work through her demons. But again, even though, most of us aren't the biggest Carol fans, I actually think she's a fascinating character. And the main reason, though, that doesn't bother me is because it's exactly what we saw in season 5. I mean, Consumed, not only was it from her point of view, but she was dealing with a lot of demons in that particular episode. She had not dealt with Lizzie and Mika and that holy hellish tragedy, right? And so they talked about it very briefly. They didn't go into it a lot, but she and Daryl mentioned it. We had the what looked like the mother and child walker that she wanted to kill, and then Daryl killed them for her. You know what I mean? It was a very Carol heavy episode. And so to me, it's just another way of repeating the template from season 5. And that's what this is going to be. Now, I think you could be right very, very much that season 3 will be a different title, but that doesn't necessarily mean that Carol won't be there or that she won't be in it or that she's going to die. I mean, anything's possible, but I'm not thinking that's what it is. I mean, I think what most of us are thinking is that, season 3 is going to be the Book of Beth. And that would, I don't know if they'll call it that, but it would make sense if we're seeing what's going on from different people's points of view. Clearly, season 1 was Daryl's point of view, only Daryl, because there was nobody else there from the original, team family. season 2 is going to be Carol's point of view, and it makes sense that some of it will be her getting to Daryl, and it's going to be her point of view there. Obviously, we're going to have things from Daryl's point of view as well, but a lot of it's just going to be about her. And then if season 3 is more from Beth's point of view, then that would make sense that we would get the missing scenes and where she's been this whole time and her whole journey from Coda up to this point, and it would be from her point of view. That would just make sense that they might be doing it that way. So yeah, I agree. I think that there will be a different title for season 3, and I don't think season 3 will be about Carol. They're giving this title to season 2 because this is where they're going to deal most deeply with Carol's inner arc, with her demons, with everything that she's struggling with. So, and I mean, could she die at the end? Yeah, I mean, I think she could, but I don't necessarily think she will, especially because everyone keeps saying that she and Daryl are going to jump on a motorcycle together at the end and head over to Europe somewhere. Yeah, it doesn't sound like she's dying to me. But again, that does sound like a lot like the end of Strangers from season 5. I was just going to say something else. I lost my train of thought. So one thing I didn't address the other day in terms of the question of Norman saying that the last episode was, the best in TWD history. I mean, how is him and Carol jumping on a bike? Assuming that's true. I think that's been confirmed, but I don't know for sure, I guess. Assuming that's true, why would that be the greatest thing ever to happen? It's got to be the reason that they're jumping on the bike that's great. And for me, I just think it's going to be, they're going to figure out something about Beth. They're going to go find her together. So yeah, it's an interesting question. Like I said, I don't think it's that Carol won't be in season 3. I just think it's not going to be from her point of view, and it's not going to deal as deeply with her demons in that season as maybe somebody else's demons and backstory. So, it might be flimsy at best or a straight up lie at worst, but I cannot believe that Nicotero told your friend a while back about how specifically Bethel fans will love the spinoff. It shockingly gives me a lot of hope. Yeah, I kind of believe it. Nicotero is funny. A lot of the stuff that we have outside the show that's super, super suspicious has come directly from him. So it doesn't surprise me that much. I think he is a Bethel shipper. I think he loves it, and he is just itching to tell people about it, but obviously he can't. Yeah, I don't know. Like, he's the one who said the stuff about the 17 days. He's the one who said the people at Grady, dead. Yeah, I think they're dead. He's always saying suspicious stuff like that. So I kind of love Nicotero. Yeah, it gives me a lot of hope, too. I think that he is not somebody who trolls the fans. I think that when he says that, he is absolutely serious, and he's absolutely giving us hope and giving us clues and just telling us that it's really close. So, yeah. Thank you for that. I don't know if you'll see this, but willing to give it a try, and I don't mind if you don't put it up on YouTube either. Just want to ask some questions that hopefully you'd be interested to answer. I'd like to first up, I found and follow you on Instagram and have been listening to your outlooks on YouTube ever since. Over a month stalker. Well, hello and welcome. The final thing is, would you be willing to do an AO3 writing fandom or just on here? I find you do such great details and opinion on the many possibilities of Beth and Daryl. Hard not to be curious on your writing style for them. So I assume you're asking me if I would write fan fiction. And I would be very, very open to it. The problem is I have very little time right now. I'm still working a full-time job. I'm trying to launch a side business, and I do write my own fiction. And on top of that, I'm doing this and trying to have a little bit of a social life here and there. So yeah, it's just, it wouldn't even be accurate to say I'll think about it. I think about it all the time, but I just haven't I haven't been able to find the time to do it. I don't know. I'll tell you guys a little secret on here, and that is that I'm hoping I might be able to quit my day job by the end of the summer. That's why I'm launching a side business, but I can't say for sure what the future holds. So, yeah, it's very possible that at some point I would write fan fiction, and I would love it. I would absolutely love it. There have been times in the past that I haven't really wanted to, and I don't know why. I just wasn't at a time when it was something that I had a deep desire for. But now I kind of do. And so I will probably write some at some point if I can possibly squeeze it into my schedule. But hopefully at some point soon my schedule will open up a little bit, and then I would be able to do that. So yeah, just sit tight. I can't promise it'll be super soon, like in the next few weeks or even the next month or two. But I will look at my schedule and I will see what I can do. Again, I can't make any promises on the timeline. So, but thank you for the question. And, it warms my heart to know that if I wrote something, you would want to read it. So I really, really do appreciate that. Like I said, I write my own fiction, so I very much, value and appreciate my readers. All right. Just saw an article somewhere that Dawn was wearing a bulletproof vest under her uniform, which, if true, makes Beth's death even more stupid. It infuriates me that Gimple chose to write her off in such a cheap way when he would never do that to other characters on the show. Well, again, I mean, well, first of all, I've never heard that she was wearing a bulletproof vest. That's actually kind of interesting. And I suppose it would make sense why it didn't really work when Beth stabbed her, because she would have hit Kevlar. But interesting. But again, I don't think that he wrote her off in a cheap way or did something wrong. I think it was just always the plan. And it was always a death fake out. And the other thing to remember, too, I think, is that assuming that we're right about everything, I mean, we have that picture of Emily when she met with Gimple prior to season 5 starting its filming. And we've always looked at that and thought that it was a clue, because Emily is kind of posing. She's being really cute. And behind her, Gimple is doing this face where he's kind of touching his jaw, but it's almost like this face like, what's going on here? It's like he's trying to hint that there's some sort of mystery coming up in the season. Now, that particular face and the idea of a mystery or what's going on doesn't really scream she's leaving the show. You know, you would think if he was hinting at something, it would be more of a tragedy sort of face or big tears or something like that. But the mystery is what really gets me, because it's a mystery about what happened to her body, the missing 17 days, what was really going on at Grady. I mean, guys, they don't really tell us what was going on at Grady. We can make a lot of inferences about the kind of research they were doing. But again, I've told the story a million times. When I was watching Slabtown, I was going, why aren't they telling us what's actually happening? I mean, what are the cops doing? And why do they have wards? And what system is going on? And what's going on with this doctor that apparently dropped out of the sky and then, you know, Edwards had Beth kill him. And there was just so much that was just cloaked, very cloak and dagger. And they just weren't telling us what was going on behind closed doors. Now, at the time, I figured that when Daryl and Rick and the group showed up to get her in the finale, they would explain it then. So I was going, okay, I'm willing to wait. I'll just kind of give them the benefit of the doubt. And then, you know, Coda happens. And not only did Beth get shot, which sucked, they never explained what was going on at Grady. Not really, not in great detail. And they still haven't. So I think that's where the mystery face originates. But what I was going to say, the reason I bring up that picture of Gimple and Emily is that she does not look upset. She looks stoked. She looks so happy. Like she's so excited to get back to filming. And yeah, she might have been excited to get back to filming one way or the other, but I don't think that she would have looked like that if she was sad about leaving the show, you know. And, you know, they tried to do the whole thing about how she didn't find out until one episode before, but we've pretty well debunked that that's the case. You know, I think what happened is that she went in to talk to Gimple. And this is another reason that we know that they don't just kill characters off 2 weeks before their death on the show. That doesn't happen because the main characters talked to Gimple, to all the writers, you know, when it switched to Angela Kang being the showrunner, it probably would have been her at that point. But they talked to the showrunner before they start filming, and the showrunner tells them what is going to happen with their character throughout the season. Okay, they've told us that more than once. So it doesn't make sense that they would suddenly decide to kill her off and tell her 2 weeks before it was filmed. Okay, that just doesn't jive with what they've told us. And that picture actually was put up by Emily and Gimple, I think. And Angela Kang's actually in it too. And when it was first posted on Instagram, I'm pretty sure that's what they said, is this was the meeting between her and Gimple at the beginning of the season. It went very well. And so I think what happened is he told her, okay, this is what's going to happen this season. You know, you've been kidnapped. You're at this hospital. They are going to show up to get you at the very end, but you're going to get shot and we're going to do a death fake out. You got to leave the show for a few seasons. We're going to keep you contracted to us. We'll give you some work doing some other pilot shows, you know, but we have to get through the comic book material and then we'll come back to the Beth and Daryl storyline. And so she knew all of that. And Gimple was probably telling her, this is going to be the biggest plot twist in film or TV history, right? There are so many people watching the show and you're going to be famous for being Beth and you're going to be even more famous when we bring you back, but it's going to take a little bit of time. And she was excited about that. She was stoked. You know, that's a really fun role, even though you're going to have to deal with a lot of backlash at first, you know. So that's, I mean, obviously that's my interpretation of it. That's what I think happened. That's what I think that picture was about. But that's all just to say that I'm not infuriated by it, even though I was shocked to my toenails by it, even though I was depressed for 2 weeks afterward and had to force myself to get back online. And then as soon as I did, I found TD theories and was pretty much almost instantly on board. Anyway, so believe me, I was one of those audience members that was shocked and mortified and like so sad and so depressed. But now I'm not any of those things anymore. And I'm not infuriated by it because, as I said, I'm an author myself and I understand the way the story is going and the way that it's going to turn out. Remember, Daryl did not say it's a damn Greek tragedy. He said it's a damn romance novel. Romance novels always end well. You have to have the happily ever after. And we've seen so much evidence leading up to this, not only about Beth, but about Daryl is finally going to get his happily ever after. And it's been freaking when did it start? 2010, right? So it's been 14 years. Yeah, we need to give him a happily ever after. And all of the evidence points to it being with Beth. So anyway, I'll move on now. In fact, I'm going to call it there for the day. And then I'm going to try to do one more video before I quit for today. So hopefully there will be another one tomorrow. I will be back then.